We'll go ahead and get started, everybody.
Right.
Hello, everyone. Tim, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself in a minute once our other two members are here. But really appreciate, we have quite an audience today, quite a crowd, and we have the mayor coming back to be liaison for the committee.
For the day.
Yeah, for the day.
For the month. We'll call
For
it
the
the month.
month.
We'll call it the month.
Right. If everyone could take a look at minutes and I have a couple of small things on minutes was at the very beginning, I think it identified call to order and approval of minutes. It said John, and it could be Jeff. Amna, I think Mary's on her way, so. All right, any other changes to the minutes?
I don't remember abstaining from the minutes
Okay,
last time.
I was curious about
Or was I
that.
not in here?
I thought you did because you hadn't been to the meeting where the minutes were.
It was
the
the
January.
Yeah,
You're right.
Was it in February or was it the January?
Yeah, or maybe, yeah,
Honestly, I can't remember now. I'll check the January because I may have, I haven't.
it's your third meeting. Right, so that wouldn't pertain to this.
But that, oh, it wouldn't pertain to February.
Well, what if this is the third? No, it wouldn't.
Let me check. I'll check that.
Not very complicated.
I do remember that happening.
I remember when. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was January. It was January. Yes.
Worry,
Thank
I'm pushing
you.
you down the table so you can put that in there.
Okay, if there aren't other changes, I'll take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second,
Seconded.
okay, all in favor? Visitor comments. Have any comments? All right.
We might have a visitor
Okay.
come from GSAC, the Green Space Advisory Commission, Corin Purcell. I thought would be coming, but so if somebody walks in that we don't recognize, it's likely Corin to listen to Jake's presentation on dark sky lighting. And I can wait, but GSAC they are planning to make a recommendation to City Council on revising those ordinances.
We can pick that back up.
Yes.
Thanks, Sean, do you wanna?
Sure, yes. I know we have a lot on the agenda, so I will keep my comments brief, but I have good news with our green dining efforts. We, as you likely know, Madrina passed their certification as well as Bagel Union. Telva at the Ridge and Balkan Treat Box audits are scheduled for this week. So by the end of this week, I feel pretty good that we will have met the thresholds to be a green dining district, which is very exciting. And then also Robust Wine Bar just applied last week, so we'll even have room to spare. And hopefully with this good news, more restaurants will still be interested in joining. And then along those lines, the GDA has, they are planning with us to celebrate Webster Groves becoming a new green dining district. And so that the weekend we're looking at promoting our green dining restaurants in Webster Groves is the first weekend in June, the 6th through the 8th, I believe that is. And so we would be promoting the community to go out and support the restaurants that week. Also, I think that the GDA, which, is underneath the Earth Day 365 umbrella, but they will likely be planning a bus tour and selling tickets for this tour that would be hopping around to the various restaurants. The proceeds for that ticketed tour would benefit Earth Day 365. So anyway, more to come on this, but that first weekend in June will likely be a celebration of Webster Groves getting district status. Also,
Something in there?
Sure.
That's Webster Groves Art Fair that weekend.
This is-
She used to just be understanding that that's gonna
Yeah,
The
add
bus
a
tour
layer
can
of.
begin and end at.
the art fair, yeah,
There you go.
thanks, John, that's good to know.
Quick question.
Sure.
The guidelines of parameters for being a green dining establishment, is that published somewhere?
It's probably published, not on our website. I'm sure I can't say for certain that it would be on their website. The requirements are 20% of your district. And the individual municipalities do get to define what their district is. And so our boundary is our business district. So Crossroads, Old Webster, Old Orchard.
I was curious about the individual businesses. What guidelines do they have to follow?
Oh,
Is that
yeah.
published somewhere?
Yeah, we have a green dining micro grants site on the Webster Groves.
Okay.
And it's also on the GDA's website.
Involves waste reduction, is that a
Yeah,
big part of it?
the big pieces are you have to recycle, you cannot use styrofoam. And you have to be phasing in efficient lighting as your old ballast bulbs burn out. And that you need to set waste reduction goals and train and educate your staff. And to become a green dining district, you have to have 20% of the restaurants in your defined area. And the other green dining districts are Maplewood, the Loop, South Grand, and the Grove. So 2 in the city and yeah, 2 out here. So anyway, it'll be fun for Webster to have that distinction. Okay, and then also I had shared previously that Ameren is going to be conducting some complimentary audits of our buildings. That was scheduled for tomorrow, and unfortunately our Ameren contact had has a personal reason and needs to reschedule. So I'll share the results of that with you all when that happens, but it has been pushed back. TBD on the next date. Yeah, and then this is just a fun thing that the mayor and I participated in an event a couple weeks ago that Councilmember Hasselmeyer put together called Cool Cities STL. Karen and John were in attendance, and a fun thing that's happened from that event is U City reached out to me, and they are planning on creating a sustainability position, and they asked for some information to help them create a job description. So, and Webster Groves currently is the only municipality in the area that has a sustainability position. So U City is now wanting to do the same. So just a fun feather in all of our caps. And the sustainability website should be live next month before the kickoff of April of Earth Month. So, and that's it for me. Thank you.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna, Tim, I don't know if you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself and kind of what led you here?
I'm a fairly boring individual, so this should be brief. Yeah, so as someone already pointed out, I forgot to take my badge off. I'm so far still an employee of the Washington University Medical School. Been there for 40 years. So I've been working in a research lab all that time. So I know a little bit about science, so I think I might be able to contribute in that arena to some degree. I've always been interested in these kind of issues. I've got some ideas that are of personal interest to me, but I'm going to mostly sit back and listen for a meeting or two before I try to get into that. I've been in Webster for about 30 years. So I know this community pretty well too. And I have multiple hobbies. That's my spouse. I have way too many of them.
Well, great.
Any questions?
Really happy to have you on board.
Welcome, Tim.
All right, next up, pinch hitting for Councilmember Bliss. Eric.
Oh, look at me, I'm even on the, okay, just a couple of things, update wise. April 1st, we will hear from all the boards and commissions with their work plan for the 2026 fiscal year and budget requests, and I'm looking forward to that. You all have done amazing work in the last year, and people have really good ideas going into next year, so I appreciate you taking the time. I believe if you want, like a gold star, I think maybe your work plan was in before anyone else's, so thank you for that.
Yeah, that's all of you. I mean, we,
So that's really exciting. And then council agenda is not too heavy upcoming, but we do have something that may be of interest to some of you. We're going to get a presentation on how much progress we're making on a strategic plan and introducing a dashboard for our strategic plan so people can keep a little better track of what we're working on and what successes we have. And when I say we, that includes you all in terms of boards and commissions who have helped us reach some of our strategic plan goals. From our last council meeting, Sanan broke the news to us about our stormwater plans, our stormwater report. So I do think in the upcoming months, we're gonna really have to figure out what does it mean for us to really tackle that report over 20 years of projects and I don't know, $24 million that we're gonna be looking for if we could do it all today. So that'll be an ongoing discussion and clearly we'll want your help in having that discussion.
Thank you. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah.
What's happening with those flooded houses by Deer Creek Park? I know one of them got leveled, but I'm curious.
So two houses are buyout houses. The first that was torn down was a FEMA buyout house. And the process for doing that is pretty complicated. So the other FEMA buyout house has not been torn down because the contract between FEMA and the resident or the homeowner was only finalized. That is now on the schedule to be torn down. We've approved that. There were 4 houses that received significant but not repetitive damage. And we as the city have agreed to go, and they're not livable. So we've agreed to go ahead and pay for the cost of demolition, but not take ownership of the property. And though that 2 of those, Son, am I right? Is this you? 2 of those have come down and the other 2 are on the schedule, but so we ought to have all of them down relatively soon. There are no plans to build on any of those at this point in time, and 4 of them we don't own, but the 2 that we have taken down or will have taken down, we cannot ever build on those. That's the agreement with FEMA that it becomes. We'll talk a little bit more, especially when it comes to Deer Creek Park. We have some work to do to figure out what we're going to do with Deer Creek Park because you can't every flood put together the softball field again and do that. And so that is on our council's long-term agenda, is to figure out what kind of maintenance we want to do, what kind of plantings we want to have to make that the best it possibly can be for stormwater retention, while also at least maybe having some field capacity for youth sports. But that's on the radar of the Parks and Rec Director right now to work on some recommendations for us.
So the 4 houses that got flooded that aren't gonna be rebuilt that are at the end of Pacific and at the end of North Forest, does that property go into the park? Or is that who owns?
So
what
technically,
is that?
we own the property for the 2 FEMA buyout houses, and one of them is on Forest and one of them is on Pacific, thank you. And they both abut the park. Will they be technically absorbed into the park? I don't think so, because they have their own restrictions on that land now that doesn't apply to the rest of the park. So we'll probably treat it like it's part of the park, but I don't know whether legally it will be the same. And Saman, do you have a better answer than I'm giving for this?
Exactly like you said.
Okay.
Yeah, they need restrictions on those properties, so you cannot build anything up. You can put a trail or something on those properties, so if the park has a loop that goes through those properties, you can do something like that. But that's it, but the rest of the park is not restricted, at least as of now, yeah.
And you could plant trees where the houses were.
Plant trees.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Just no structures and no quote unquote improvements. I would say trees are improvement, but I guess the legal definition, maybe, I don't know. But keep in mind, the houses that are coming down that we don't take ownership, it is possible that they will be sold and developed, but if they're developed, they have to meet FEMA standards for being in a floodplain. It was just too expensive for us to take on the cost of all 6 houses.
Right. All right, let's, under old business, next item is Webster on Wheels sponsorship and point person. And I don't think yet we've had anybody who's been able to commit to that. It's, it's my thinking, and I'll let you guys, weigh in here, that it's hard to put our name on it as a sponsor if none of us could attend. I mean, we've done that the past 4 or 5 years, but, unless someone's willing to.
I have a question.
Sure.
I can't be there, but I could be like a point person if anyone else from the commission could actually be at the event.
Okay.
Could you,
Mary?
Could you remind us of the dates or give us a time? I don't know how much time you want to use here, but give us one more chance at.
Yeah,
volunteering.
I mean, I'm happy to, I think I wasn't on Dave's email, but. I
The
can-
date is Saturday, May 3rd.
Yeah,
And I can tell you that on Friday, May 2nd, the Webster Grove School District has agreed to, and I don't think this has been promoted yet, but they will be hosting or promoting a bike to school day on that Friday as a result of Dave Buck's, community advocacy. Thank you, thank you. And also this is to, intentionally to tee up Webster on Wheels, the community bike ride. So, and as promoting bikeability is a tenet of this commission has sponsored the event for several years. And the commission sponsoring this event also waives certain fees that otherwise the event organizers would have to pay for, such as the staff time for police officers to be present, or they would have to pay for certain barricade. Anytime you pull an application for a special activity permit, there are fees associated with that. But if it is a sponsored event of the city or of a commission, then not all of those fees, but certain fees are waived because it is a sponsored event.
okay.
And so
I was
that's
aware of
why
that.
I think Dave has been so, proactive in asking the commission and plugging the event to you all, because it does help the event to have the Sustainability Commission's
Right.
presence.
Mary?
I'll tentatively volunteer. I'll follow up with you,
Okay.
just to confirm by email if I could, just to make sure. And there was another thing I was gonna say, and I don't.
Right, it comes to it. Come back to me. I've done I volunteered for Webster on Wheels, and I've done the ride. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I know what I was gonna say. My other column, my peer commissioners doing the Earth Day thing, you guys have done all the lift, so I'll do.
What-
Oh, okay, thank you. Oh,
what was the
I just
time?
need to check.
Cause it wasn't in the original email. I'm sorry if I just missed it.
Yeah,
Cause I can't do for sure one part of the day, but there's no time on it. So I wasn't sure what time. It's
Yeah,
usually
let me see if it's-
morning.
I'll have to go back and look.
I can't remember what you said.
I feel like it's
wasn't in
the morning
email.
time.
This
9?
morning, yeah.
It's been in
Is
the
it
morning in
9?
the past. 9 or 10. We're waiting on sports schedules.
Something.
that's I'm out of town for a baseball tournament at 12-year-olds.
Is that a Sunday thing?
It's just
Sunday
that.
morning?
Right.
Yes, it's a Saturday. Saturday, the 3rd of May.
So I'm a maybe depending on the time.
More than
And
great.
I can help. Last year, I helped with this snack stop that was in front of the high school. And I can do that. That's.
Okay.
So in the past, and you could speak to this, John, but Paul Bars helped set up a station, a rest stop. Is that right? Where we had a jug. I know the Public Works Department lended out some of, one or two of their big orange Gatorade jugs. And there was a table.
Stop across from the high school, I believe.
Yeah.
I went down by the high school and it's a stop.
Right there in Selma, right across from the main door to the high school. And there was like cookies and crackers and fluids.
Okay.
And I had nothing to do with organizing them to get there. I just went there to help distribute them because it's like, you're doing nothing,
Right.
all of a sudden like 20 ravenous kids come by, they're there for 5 minutes, then they're gone.
Okay.
So it's a small job, you don't know exactly when you're gonna go.
Right. Okay, well, it sounds like we have a group volunteer effort, which is awesome. I don't know, do you want to reach out to Dave or I? This is
Yeah.
something we're going to,
Absolutely, sure, I'd be happy to. And I can connect you at Mary and Anna. Okay.
And I'm not.
All three of you. Wonderful. Okay.
And
Last-
we'll loop you guys in, and John and,
Yeah, last year it was in the afternoon, 1:30 to 4:30. So if it's in the afternoon, I cannot do that. But if it's in the morning, I may be able to do it. So
We'll
keep me
make
in
sure
the loop.
it's around.
Keep me in the loop.
Okay, I'll connect you guys. Thank you.
Okay, super.
So
But
I said I was gonna keep quiet. but-
No.
But I might be available.
okay, super. All right, Webster, the Safe Streets Task Force, since Paul Bars has had to leave the commission. We're looking for a new representative, and Matt, he's here with us, I think so, has volunteered to take on that role.
Wonderful. Thank you.
The Safe Streets representative
Oh, brilliant.
for the Safe Streets Task Force.
Hannah, you can move them over.
Matt, are you,
So if you do that. Right.
Oh,
Okay.
there's Matt.
are you good to join the Safe Streets Task Force? Was that a yes? Sorry.
Looks like me. Somebody's got to mute it.
Yeah, he can unmute himself.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
there we go.
Okay, so when you moved me over as a panelist, I lost your audio, but I think I got it back. Sorry about that.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, that's all right. Yeah, so I just before I'd be happy to take on that role. I just wanted to clarify, I guess probably question Sean. So those are monthly meetings, correct?
Correct. Yes, it's the fourth Thursday of the month, at 9:30.
Okay,
As of
and
now,
is there? I assume there's a Zoom option for that too. For
There is,
Okay.
yes, yes.
yeah, so I'd be happy to do it. I think the catch is that it'll be fairly rare that I would be there in person, though. Not always virtually, but if that works, I'd be happy to do that.
Yeah, absolutely, that's fine. And there also might be a conversation next month about revisiting the time of those meetings.
Okay.
So, all right, thanks very much, Matt.
Great. Next item is the high school liaison, and Karen has been in touch with the school and instructor and will give us some details.
Yeah, the environmental club advisor, and now her name is gone right out, it's Elizabeth something, is happy to help us find a student. And I put together a solicitation that I sent out to everybody. I didn't want to send it to her until I had word from the commission that you all are ready for it to go, but as far as I'm concerned, it's ready to go.
Do we need to vote?
That's good. I don't think we can vote on this. That sounds great. Thank you for taking that on.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
wonderful job description.
Very,
just a clarifying question, was there an age recommendation, like to see us junior, senior? or could it-
She said sophomore and junior, and I think I put that right up at the beginning of
Thank
it,
you,
but
I'm
it's not,
sorry.
I'll double check.
all right. Next up is Earth Month plans. Who wants to?
So I'll introduce, because I am not doing any work. All I'm doing is setting up calls for these amazing people to do stuff, and then they're so good we cancel the calls. So I will introduce Anna to talk about the map, Amna to talk about the marquee, and John to talk about the EV event.
Okay, so hopefully, so far, everyone, but Tim, not yet, because I don't have your email. Has received a copy of a draft of the sustainability map. And after some discussion, we all agreed on some categories to include especially EV charging stations, commercial solar arrays, Green Dining Alliance restaurants, the Ripple Glass recycling bin, and the bus stop as well. And then there were some ideas tossed around over email to also include some walking paths. And the date. For sure. And anything else you all think would be useful. Sean mentioned some more Green Dining Alliance restaurants, I think, than what are listed on here, or did you get them all? I think you mentioned a couple of new ones. We have 6 on here.
What were the new ones you just mentioned, Sean?
Oh, our two original, oh, Big Sky's on there. Do you have, Olive and Oak is on there. Beignet All Day, we've got that one.
The Bagel Union?
No, Bagel Union,
is the one you said.
Oh, is it still in the pipeline or is it?
it's
done?
still, it hasn't been announced yet, so you wouldn't have known that yet. Okay, Madrina, Bagel Union, Big Sky Cafe, Olive and Oak, Maypop, Beignet All Day, Bijou Chocolates you have. Oh, the other three just haven't been, they're not finalized yet, but that's Telva at the Ridge, Balkan Treat Box, and Robust have applied. Those audits have not yet happened yet, but
Can we wait for those to be done? Because it seems silly to print it without those three, but they're coming down the pipe.
When were you planning to distribute it at the event?
Potentially, which leads me to the next question, which is maybe we continue to have these printed by the city.
yes, let me work on that.
Okay,
Not sure if that's a public affairs funding us or if that's not sure, because there is quite a bit of toner on the side. So I don't know.
we may need a version that's for print and one for digital use only.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
yeah.
we go.
So I will take that.
Okay.
How easy will it be when someone puts up a new solar array or there's an EV charger to change this as far as the online version?
Well, this was made in Canva.
Okay.
It's
Um,
not easy.
so just email me.
I would suggest we just update it once a year. Every January it gets updated, or every Earth Day. Sure. I
Yeah.
mean, the new ones are revealed, just to save
Yeah.
churn
Oh, yeah.
and.
One small thing, I didn't notice it on the original copy, because on my screen it looked fine, but the color contrast on these two is a little too close. That might be kind of challenging for some folks, especially since they're both ones, you know, it's like one, I don't know. So if there's a way to make this one just a little bit, I don't know, different somehow.
The blue.
Yeah, the one for
Yeah.
just the Ripple Glass,
Oh, yes,
that
yes, yes.
color in particular doesn't
Yes.
to.
And Matt made a similar comment and recommended that the numbers go one through.
Oh, that'd be
however
perfect.
many,
Yeah,
not
as
start
long as it's
over.
continuous, then
Yeah.
that wouldn't be, the color won't matter as much.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
Okay, so I'm a visitor, but I'm curious. If I picked this up the first time, Pam sent it to me, thankfully, so I could look at it. It looks to me like there's only one bus stop in the entire city of Webster Groves.
Mm-hmm.
There's one bus route, but there are lots of bus stops
Aha.
along the route. So I don't know whether you wanted to just do the color of the route and mark it or, but it just looks like the only place you can get the buses. Out
Good
there.
point. But why did we pick that one stop?
If you go to the Bi-State website, that is the one stop they show in Webster.
They're all up and down Lockwood, so I don't know why they do that. I was just trying to pull it up to make sure I wasn't wrong, and I think, is that where, that may be listed, I don't know what the streets are, what's
Like in
this,
front of Eden, more or less.
what's this north or south, is that Elm?
That brings up a question I had, which is, does anyone think I should add the street names?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think the answer is
Definitely.
just.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely, yeah.
Which street are we looking at?
I'm trying to figure out that bus
Could
stop.
make the bus
Oh,
stops
for
just
this
be
one.
little symbols so that they didn't have to be named each one and address on.
That's one.
What's the north-south street by 6 and 1? Is that
Oh,
Elm?
Moody.
Oh, that's Moody's. No.
No, maybe that's
actually
east-west.
6, 1.
Elm.
That is
Elm,
Elm, yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, and that's Summit.
Yeah, because if that's Bond Part, there is a bus stop
Mhm.
right around Webster University, there's another bus stop in front of the Sunrise, which is across the way, and there are a couple more down there. So there's some more on there.
Okay,
So yeah, maybe the bus stop is just the symbol,
Yeah, that's what I
rather
was
than
thinking. Mhm.
labeling each one.
oh, okay,
So then you wouldn't have to put the addresses of the bus stops, and you could just say bus stop is, you know, one of the symbols you use and then just pepper them on the map.
Yeah, so this will say bus route.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Also, I believe there's a bus stop on Watson on the website.
There are,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think putting the addresses might be helpful just because some people's spatial awareness, some people think in terms of addresses, some people think in terms of space.
Well, there might be a space issue on the map. if you-
Some people get lost
We
easily.
got to end.
Does that make sense? Or?
Yeah.
And it might be like, you could do it if it's like crazy busy because there's so many bus stops, it looks like it detracts from the rest of the data, then
Maybe
that's
place
the
the
question,
steps
but I
first.
don't think it'd be that much if we just use the icon.
Do we have a bus stop map for the city?
Well, like John said, all they show on their website is,
This is on the bi-state, not the city website.
On the, yeah,
It may have to be requested directly from by state, a more specific map. I'm sure if they know what it's for, they'll be happy to provide it because it would increase use.
Anna, I can work with you offline and to talk about reaching out to my state.
sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback.
one more small thing. I don't know if you had a chance to see your email or not, but the EV charging stations are also gonna come and go. And there's a website where you can go to look them up. I think it's chargefinder.com, or maybe there's another one that's better than that, I don't know, but just maybe putting the website on there for updated list of chargers.
But it was a super awesome start.
Just so you know,
Yeah,
it is
really
amazing.
cool, yeah.
So well
Good idea.
amazing. We just have to do this slow.
I know. This 20.
Oh, tiny.
Little.
That will take you each like way more minutes than it should, or than we want it to.
The nature of the beast. Also, I think it's 11 by 17, although this grand size is much easier to use probably than an 11 by 17, or what this is 11 by.
That looks like a.
12 by 18.
You know, the printer just automatically knew and I didn't have to select anything, so I'm not sure.
It's nice. Okay.
I can talk about the marquee, but Mary really overinflated how much I did. These two did a lot, and Mary did a lot too with organizing. Anyway, all I did was write a couple ideas for marquee texts. And Sean, you did share that space is at a premium, so I have a couple different versions. Should I just send them to you and you send it to the person in
Yeah,
charge?
send
They
them
can
to
tell you
me, but
what's-
I will even point out that, like today, for example, if you look, there's not even one line available. So I would recommend you guys, consider the Friday page blurbs.
Yeah,
Cause
that's,
our public affairs manager has already said she can dedicate a paragraph or two to the commission every week in April for that. And there are certain days out here that it might not be possible to even have one line. So I would maybe consider abandoning the I mean, we can have,
Okay.
let's send me the suggestions, and if there's
Okay.
certain days where it works, then we can just leave it up there.
okay,
And then certain days, maybe they just have to take it down to fit the other things.
Okay.
But do you think you would like to
Yeah.
pursue the Friday page?
yes, definitely.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. I'll tell her then that's coming. It
Okay,
would probably be helpful for her if we could get the blurb for all 4 weeks at once
okay,
versus every week,
no, yeah, that makes sense.
if that's possible.
Mhm. Yeah, okay.
I don't know what topics you wanna.
We did talk about different topics initially for
Okay.
each, because there was an initial version where we had a different message for each week,
Oh, yeah, okay.
so, yeah.
I know that we had the conversation earlier today about the April 19th event, so I would think that Friday, the 18th Friday page, we want to direct people to that.
Yeah.
And that if we could get the marquee for that event, given that the event will be on site. I think that would be
Yeah.
helpful.
I think so too.
You wanna talk about the EV event?
Okay, So the idea is to have electric vehicles, both like fully electric or plug-in hybrids. There in the parking lot, just on the east side of the city hall here. There's 31 parking spaces. So my goal is to get 15 vehicles so that you don't have people trying to walk in between vehicles parked next to each other. But there's space in between. I rounded up 15 people who've got electric vehicles who are gonna bring them. Some of them, a couple of them are the dealership, the Mini of St. Louis and the BMW, there on the Cleat Station are bringing, those, some brand new cars. Mostly it's just people who drive EVs who are bringing their car. I think, Matt, I think you're bringing your vehicle, which is a plug-in hybrid, right?
Yep, that's correct.
So it's not strictly all electric, it's a mix of electric or a plug-in hybrid. It goes from 10 a.m. to noon. It's the time. We will have access to a bathroom in the cop shop there at the back on this side. What will be helpful is, I think, it'll be helpful to have a couple volunteers who can help. Like, I think one of the tricky things is to be parking, because the ideas we're using a lot for this, there's not space to park. I came by Saturday morning just to count how many spaces there were, public spaces on a Saturday morning in April, and there was probably 8 spots that were open along Lockwood. So if this is like way popular, people are gonna have to do a little walking, but that's good. It's not good, but it's workable. And I think what would be, so the idea is it's just kind of schmoozing. People come, they can go from vehicle to vehicle, they can ask people about their vehicle. Earlier on, we were talking about trying to set it up where people could drive a vehicle, but that's ended up seeming like way too many legal hassles to be worth trying to figure out. So we're not doing that. I met with Sean and Renee Tyler earlier today about lining up the Friday page segment for the Friday before that Saturday. So I think that's set.
Make a Facebook event
Yeah.
to share.
Well, a Facebook event, so it's important. If you do Facebook, share it with the people that you know. And then I also have the goal of getting Webster Kirkwood Times there to do a story, because the reality is a story on the front page of Webster Kirkwood Times is going to get more eyeballs than are going to come to the event per se. So I think that media is a target. I don't know whether, I don't ever see the Post-Dispatch anymore. I don't know if they've got enough space in their paper to do anything like that, but anybody that's still reads the Post-Dispatch lives in Webster Groves. So they might be interested to do that, because I know a lot of their staff live in Webster. I'm agnostic on that, but I think we do want to think earned media and how do we use earned media to expand the touches.
The Webster Kirkwood Times calendar, the little blurbs that they have in there, we should send it to them as well. Right?
It's free.
Oh, the thing at the back.
Right, where they post the calendar,
Yeah.
what's happening any day of the week, here's what's happening on Wednesday, and
Sure.
I have a contact there for EcoEd. I can, just as long as I know what the blurb is. What time is it?
10 a.m. to 12 noon.
I'm assuming this is rain or shine too, so we just have to keep our fingers crossed.
Yeah, just got to keep our fingers crossed. And what would be helpful is to have a couple of volunteers, especially there at the beginning, because as we need to park these vehicles. People drive up and they say, I'm here to show off my EV. And so we'll need people to say, okay, you go there, don't go here, you go there. Or if someone says, I need to use the bathroom, where do I go? So it'd be helpful to have a couple of sort of docents there just to help manage that. But my thought is once we do that each person brings their vehicle, they're staffing out their vehicle and they're showing off their vehicle and explaining their vehicle. So I don't think we have to do anything with that. We just gotta make sure that people get parked, they know where to go. And that I'm hoping we can get Don Corrigan from the Webster Kirkwood Times to come. So we need somebody, some people looking out for him. And if he comes, we'll need somebody to bring him around to talk to the different people to make sure you get a good story and you get some purpose.
Is the Ameren speaker still coming?
She's not coming to speak. What she's doing is Ameren's created a document that goes all makes and models of EVs and how much federal rebate you get per model. And it's actually extremely complicated if you've tried to do it yourself. It is, it's not like, all, I don't know, Ford F-150s qualify. It's like, well, where was it built? What kind of engine does it have? Like
battery materials sourced and.
Yeah, it's really complicated. So anyway, so she said she would give us as many copies of those Ameren sheets and we just distribute to people.
Oh, so she's not at the event, she's giving us the material. That's totally cool. I just.
Yeah, that is my
Okay,
understanding.
thank you.
Okay, thanks, John. And we can continue to. If anyone wants to volunteer, reach out to John. And luckily we have a month to still put this together, so.
How many more cards do you need?
I've got 15 commitments, but somebody can get
That's-
sick or
okay.
their cars can break down. So I think it'd be helpful to have a couple of more, 2 or 3 insurance vehicles. So if anybody around this table's got a EV or a plug-in hybrid, that'd be great. But I think something. I think it's sort of like a party planners. We just got to walk around and make sure that the people are showing off their cars. And that it's not a lot. I think once it starts, it's not a lot of work. It's just matchmaking and making sure that, right. Or if someone comes up and says, I want to look at a plug-in hybrid, which would be, be worth having a few people know, oh, it's that purple one over there.
What's the date again?
It is Saturday, April 19th from 10 a.m. to 12 noon.
Do you think it would be helpful to put together a list of what EVs are there? So if someone has a particular interest. Once people arrive, I guess it'll be easy enough to walk around the parking lot and see. There's a Ford Mustang.
Yeah, but you make a good point. It'd be worth knowing. So for example, somebody just wants to look at a plug-in hybrid. We could say, oh yeah, there's 2 plug-in hybrids. It's that one and that one.
Did you have like a little sign out in front of each one that says what kind it is, that we don't have to do, or just I don't know. And I'm thinking if I'm coming, know nothing, I just see all these cars. I'm like, what's going on? Pull in. How do I know which car is which kind without doing research?
Because it'll be presumably the owner will be standing next to the
Just ask
car and you
them.
can say, tell me about your vehicle.
I think the list would be helpful for that, for this, what I was
There's gonna
getting
be
at,
a lot of
right?
stuff.
Even printed on an 8.5.
I think there is.
No, I don't think there's going to be 15 vehicles.
Yeah.
There's 31 spaces.
I think it'd be good to have it.
Really? Doesn't look like that.
If you go to Google, you just go to Google Earth and
Okay.
I was pleasantly surprised when I did that, but
Can we make a map and that way you can assign each driver to which spot they're gonna park in, and then you can have that map printed and ready, this car is here. And maybe keep the plug-in hybrids together, EVs together.
yeah.
For a list, if that's easy, it doesn't
Or
have
just
to
a
be
list,
a,
yeah.
it could just also be here are the cars that are coming, here are what types they are. A map would be cool, but then it's a matter of
if everybody shows up,
Making
and
sure
then
that
if one person
everyone's
can't
fine.
come and then somebody else comes instead.
Karen, were you gonna say something?
Yeah, are we gonna have one of the Webster Groves, police cars there?
We didn't plan that, cause I figured they should be policing, like, getting bad guys during town meeting rather than taking a vehicle off the street.
It's part of their, I mean, is it partially also community engagement? I don't know, maybe that's not such a bad thing.
Okay. We're already, I guess my thinking is we're using their bathroom, we're taking away some of their parking on the day. I just didn't want to like keep on piling on.
I may suggest that you ask the chief, that he's very much interested in community engagement, and he may see this as an opportunity rather than a burden.
All right.
And if he sees it as a burden, he'll tell you.
I think we can continue to refine and work on the details of that plan. I wanted to make sure we had saved plenty of time to talk about responsible lighting ordinances, and like to take it away.
Something for that?
Yes, okay, all this is Jake Broniker, he's a Webster Groves resident and a member of the Dark Sky Missouri Board. And he has assisted other municipalities in our region with updating their lighting ordinances, and he's a great resource for us here. So Jake, thanks for coming today.
So I got a handout for everybody. I double-sided it because I know it's the sustainability committee. So, you get to that. You can,
The green in the bottom middle.
so the question is, should Webster Groves update its light ordinances? And my opinion is, yeah, we definitely should, because the ordinances are probably really outdated. They probably date all the way back to the 1980s when they were drafted. The very first Eco Series talk that was given by Linda Green went through the various aspects of light pollution, including all of the problems that when you have excess light, exterior light, what it causes. Now, whenever I give this talk to municipalities and talk about the ordinances, they always hone in right on this thing of crime and traffic, because they always think that the more lights, the better it is. But if you take a look at this right here, everybody is driven at night with these obnoxious LED headlights on cars and how blinding and glaring they can be. Well, lights that are like barn lights on buildings that shine out can do the exact same thing. And you can look on this one. This is an example of a porch light that's unshielded, and you don't see anybody right here. But when you put your hand in front, lo and behold, there's a person there. So there are safety issues too that you should be, that we need to be concerned about with proper lighting. So how do you minimize light pollution? There's really two ways. You can educate or you can regulate. And they really go hand in hand. When you draft your ordinances and you incorporate some of the things that further the educational part of it. And this is basically the 5 lighting tips for when you select an outdoor light and what you should do. So for example, you only light what you really need to. So for example, if you're trying to light a sidewalk, you want to try to get the light just in that sidewalk area. You try to find the most energy efficient and only as bright as needed. This right here is an example of where you want to try to shield your lights and direct it down, because when you have globe lights that don't have anything on the top, all you're doing is sending light up into the sky. That causes sky glow, which is, nobody's walking around in the sky. You don't need the light up there. And then also you can try to control it by putting it on a timer. That's like the key for like sports events, sporting lights where you shut them off at 11 or 12. I don't know what our regulation is in Webster, but sporting events usually, shut off or the swimming pool shuts off. And then this is kind of the most controversial thing right now is the choosing of the warm lights, or what is referred to with LEDs. the Kelvin light. So here's an example. This is 2700 Kelvin. Oh, this is Corn right here.
I pour.
Showed up at the right time. I've organized many
Yes.
five. No mistake.
Yeah, so Corn, I've worked with Corn on the green space. So,
Nice.
and so this is an example of a 2700 LED Kelvin light bulb. This is 3000. So you can tell the difference between the two. They're at the exact same lumen or the same brightness, but between the two, which one do you think is a better, more comfortable light to have to look at? This one?
Yeah.
Good, so I got all these converts. This is the better one. I agree with that. So what would be the benefits if you would update your light ordinance? This is not in Webster, but this is what a municipality, I don't know why it's changing. This is what a municipality was promised. And because they didn't have really enforceable, really strong ordinances, this is what they ended up getting. And I know that if I was the neighbor of this place right here, this would bother the heck out of me. And so, what I'll do is I'm going to give you a little tour of Webster Groves. These pictures were taken in March of 2023.
Do you want me to take that block out of the picture? You can do that,
Yeah, I don't know.
just so it's a little easier for you.
Oh. Okay. Take it.
There you go.
Okay, so this is examples of some of the good lighting that we have in Webster. This is the path that's along Edgar Road in Blackman Park. And if you look at the 5 principles, little color sheet that you have, you can just visually look at that and see that that is proper lighting that the Parks Department selected. It's just lighting up the pathway that you need. It's not causing any of the sky glow. This is the new science center that's on the Webster campus. And you can see it too has good lighting. If this was like, for example, downtown St. Louis, where we have a large number of bird migrations because we're along the Mississippi Flyway, this would be a perfect building down there because you could actually even lower those shades and not cause the birds to get confused and run into the light and have, you know, bird kills during that because they get disoriented by the light. This is an example of the sidewalk along Edgar. And you can see these particular lights focus the light down. They're only lighting the sidewalk. And you can see there's very little light spillage into Edgar Road right there. So those are examples of good ones. Here's some examples of some bad ones. This is the upper parking lot at Blackburn Park. And you can see that what they put in there are what we refer to as acorn lights. And you can see that the light is actually almost like a 360 light, including going way up into the sky. This is just a better picture of it, but you can see this is lighting up this tree. Now, nobody's parking in that tree except for birds and bugs. So there's really no reason to have that kind of light going up there. But I have to tell you that this thing was probably installed shortly after I moved to Webster, like maybe 20 years or so. So at the time, this may have been state of the art, but you know, for the LEDs that are there. This is another example of what I consider to be bad lighting. This is, I'm standing in the middle of the street about 75 feet from the property line. And this motion detector comes on. So if this was a rainy day, it actually might have been wet pavement at the time, but you can see that that causes glare shining directly out. Now, I got to give them credit because it is a motion detector. They at least had it set that the sensor did go off. As long as I stood still, the sensor went off. So that's okay. Sometimes you need to have a motion detector like that for safety concerns, but you can make it less sensitive too. Here's another example of what I'll consider to be bad lighting. We've got, these are probably the sodium vapor lights here. This is probably an LED. You can see that they're just shining directly out. I'm standing in the field at Eden Seminary, and you can see that those lights are casting way out into the field. We're really, I'm not so sure that we need to have that kind of lighting. But And the other thing is, we have in the ordinances lighting plans to be reviewed, but they're only as good as how often they get reviewed. So when somebody has to resubmit this light, which is probably a newer one, somebody should have maybe caught that and figured out maybe we could do a little better. This is what I'll refer to as the ugly. This is the rec center lights up there. And this was, I have to tell you, this was taken in March of 2023. But you can tell how bright these lights are. They're higher light standards too. But I'm standing on the edge of Hickson's library, Hickson's parking lot. And you can see how far down that light is shining and lighting up the fence and everything right there. So there's glare, they're not shielded. It has this bright white spectrum, which is the blue light, which is the worst of all the lights. It causes circadian rhythm problems. It affects bugs, birds, even plants are affected by that blue light. They're too bright. And I think, you know, if I lived here, I probably would be calling City Hall. But that's not the end of the story. So last night, I didn't want to show pictures without me knowing. I went up to the rec center in Hickson School last night, and I took these pictures. This is the one from 2 years ago, and this is the picture taken roughly in the same spot. You see the fence, you can see the fence. Now you see the major difference between those two pictures. When the school put in their lights, they directed exactly to the parking lot. It's all lit up. You get very little light trespass here. And in fact, these trees right here are lit up because of the Webster Groves Rec Center lights, which are taller, brighter. I'm pretty sure that they're maybe over 4,000 Kelvin, as opposed to these, which I think they're 2,700, which would be like these, as opposed to like this. So I have to give kudos to the planning department or whoever made the approval of the Webster School District parking lot lights. They did a good job on it. And you can really see the difference here. These are the three lights that are lighting up the parking lot. And you see that parking lot at night is lit up enough that it doesn't cause any safety issues. The lighting is sufficient, but look right here in the middle of the picture, and you can see that Webster's Rec Center lights are atrocious. And the thing is if you look here, you see these trees right here where they are lit up. That's light scatter, that's light trespass. But look at the trees behind where the school district lights are. They're focused, lighting up just what they need. So they are following the 5 principles. Unfortunately, the city doesn't. So where are Webster Groves lighting ordinances? Okay, so they're throughout the city code. You're gonna find some in the building code, some in the zoning, some in regulations of billboards. But when you look at them, I can tell you that they're outdated, they're vague, they're not comprehensive, and they're really an afterthought. So LEDs. Since July of 2023, you can really only buy LEDs for exterior. Webster only references LEDs, from what I can tell, in their code in one place. And they're talking about exit signs. I don't even know that this is an external. I think it's exit signs within the building. But that's going to be for somebody else to try to figure it out. But that to me is a red flag that the ordinances are somewhat outdated. And by the way, there's nothing about the LED light on either the lumens, which is how bright they should be, or the color corrected temperature, the Kelvin scale. So you can put an LED that looks like this, as opposed to the one that we've all voted on as being a lot better. Here's just some more examples of where they're vague and inconsistent. This is in the zoning code. So for example, if I wanted to do an accessory parking lot, I can't adversely affect the residents. But if I wanted to build and put in a drinking establishment, I have to have 0 candle at the property line, meaning absolutely no light could trespass. Now, I don't know what the rationale for that is, but it seems to me a little bit either vague or inconsistent. And this one in the middle is an example. Probably somebody within the last 5 years wanted to put up a bed and breakfast sign. Somebody said, okay, we gotta regulate that. So, okay, what are we gonna do? We're gonna say that the sign can't be any more than this 50-watt standard light bulb. Well, good luck now going out to buy that 50-watt standard light bulb. Because you don't buy those anymore. So that's just an example of where I think it's a tad outdated. This is the best of the best that we've got on building codes. It at least allows you to set light limits. And in this instance, it's like 0.5 foot cables at the residential property line. Different from the one that I showed you before. Vague and ambiguous at this point. It does at least talk about how you should shield and direct your lights to try to avoid trespass or glare or things like that. But the thing that amazes me, it makes reference to this section right here, 20.300. That doesn't exist in the city code, as far as I can find on the website. It also makes reference to 20.300.8. That doesn't exist. So the one thing that I will point out on lights on poles, regulating those lights like at the rec center, the city's getting a free pass on that. Should not be applicable to any installation by the government agency or the public utility. So that goes to both the lights at the rec center, but also our street lights. So if you give an exception to the government or the public utility, this is the kind of thing that you could get. This is not Webster. But I think everybody would look at that, I would say that those lights are a little bit excessive. They're shining up. I mean, at least I'll give them credit that it's probably 2,700 Kelvin. So it's at least an amber glow. But I always think that the city ought to set the example, because when the city starts coming in and gets a lighting plan from commercial, the city ought to be setting a standard for the proper types of lighting. And by the way, it can be done. This is that same picture, but this is Flagstaff, Arizona, and they have been a dark sky community since 2001.
You can see stars.
You can see stars. Absolutely. You cannot see stars. Well, here's true. I can see stars from my house at night sometimes, but
Not many.
not many, which is a shame because, you know, you have to drive almost 2.5 hours from St. Louis to see the Milky Way right now. I could see the Milky Way when I was a little kid.
We have like 6 planets visible right now, and you can only see 2 or 3.
Right.
It's a shame.
It is. So how can we improve them? So I think what I tried to explain to you that they're hodgepodge, they're spread throughout our code, they're outdated, they don't really identify LEDs, they're not comprehensive, they're inconsistent, they're vague, and they're somewhat of an afterthought. So what I've done in working with Corn and the green spaces is we've tried to come up with what would be like a general comprehensive ordinance for effective lighting. That would maybe go in the front of the zoning code so that when somebody starts to think about what they're doing, commercial, that lighting is not an afterthought, but it's a thought right up so that we can try to get better lighting in here. These are the basic parameters that are in the draft code, and I've given a section of it there. And the whole thing is if we don't have to be like renegades on this and lead the battle. We have been able to help Clayton, Olivet, Ellisville, Brentwood, and now Kirkwood to enact similar types of general ordinances that regulate the lights so that we can get a good lighting around here. And these are all basically very similar to Webster Groves in, you know, their size, or, I mean, some of them obviously have more commercial than what Webster has, but, you know, we're fairly similarly situated. So if we don't do anything, we're gonna get this. And this is an example. This is actually, everything in the pink is,
It's got a mind of its own.
it does. Everything
That
here.
bright light you got next.
That's it, yeah. So this is the St. Louis, this is data from 2016, so this is even a lot worse now. But like I said, you gotta go 2.5 hours outside St. Louis to really see the Milky Way now. So, and we're actually trying to get some of our state parks certified as dark sky parks, so that and try to preserve our skies a little bit. So what I want to do is, how much time do I have here?
The Traffic Advisory Commission comes in at
Okay.
5:30,
So I can be quick on this. So this, I'm gonna go back to this slide. This is what is in the draft ordinance that we worked with green space. And as I mentioned, the items that are in black with other municipalities have been pretty much not controversial. But where you start getting some pushback a little bit is like, do we want to regulate the streetlights? I think that Webster probably has a contract with Ameren to maintain our lights. I don't know who gets to select the lights, but I can tell you that other municipalities that have those contracts with Ameren, if they don't regulate what type of light they're getting the crap lights, the ones that Ellisville doesn't want, because Ellisville wants the 2700 ones, which are the ones that we all voted for instead of these. And we're getting a lot of these right now in Webster. So that's the example of the CCT, that's the 2700. The other issue that is, well, how do you phase in the types of lights? Do you do a moratorium, which means as of a certain date, everybody has to have their lights corrected or at 2700, or do you grandfather them in? I'm personally in favor of grandfathering them in. I've spent 35 years cleaning up hazardous waste sites. I don't want to be taking a light down that still has some usefulness in it and have to dump it into a waste site. But at least if you enact good lighting and you can keep it at status quo, when that light burns out, put the right one in. So we've drafted it with green space to do the grandfathering. The exceptions, you probably already know, my exception is I don't want to give the government a free pass. I want the government to basically set a standard. So I would want our Parks Department to put in better lighting, or at least see if there's ways to modify the lights. So for example, those globe lights in Blackburn Park, you can spray paint top of it so that the light that is basically targeted down as opposed to going up in the sky. Or at the rec center, those are LED panels. I think you could tilt them a little bit so that instead of shining this way, they're basically not shining on the neighbors, but really focused more towards the building, which is where they should be. I mean, in an ideal world, we would have built those light standards on the edge and shined them over like the school.
Do those have any kind of shades on?
They're just a flat panel with the lights going down.
Just
But
pointing down.
they're not at the horizon. They're like this.
Hmm.
So that's why you get a lot of the glare. But it's better because I think that this particular light in 2023, when I took the picture, was literally just shining directly down the Hickson parking lot. And I mean, it literally, there were houses here that were, getting blasted with the light. And then the last one is enforcement. One of the communities, Ellisville, has got kind of an intermediate, rather than like escalating it to a big zoning conflict and bringing everybody in. If you have a neighbor that has, like, for example, a porch light that's directly shining into your bedroom, what Ellisville does is they kind of try to get somebody from the city, but then the two parties together, and they said, hey, what can we do to try to solve that problem? So Brentwood, an example, they have those barn lights on their city hall, and those barn lights were shining directly into one of the neighbors that is adjacent to their city hall. So one night they got out with the neighbor in City Hall with a ladder, and the guy from City Hall literally just tilted that barn light down so that it still is providing the light that the city wanted. It lights the parking lot, but it's no longer that obnoxious light going into the ladies' at this point. So it's a win-win, both sides are happy, and it didn't become a big giant, fiasco with a fight. So that is basically all I was gonna say. Corin is here from Green Space. I only made 3 copies. Okay, so
Be all right if we take a couple minutes of your time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. I'll send you 2 around so I can look at one while I talk to you. That's I'll try to be concise. 2 weeks ago, Green Space Commission voted to send us up to Jake. We decided, based on the talk Jake gave us 2 years ago, we set it aside for a while. We had other priorities, but just now it's come back on our radar. So as of first week of March, we decided to send it up with our staff liaison to the city to see if we can request updates to the ordinances to make them match with what Jake is suggesting here in the Dark Skies organization. The truth is, this is more a sustainability issue than a green space issue. It is a green space issue, but it's even more with you guys. So we would love if you'd be willing to join us. This is the letter that we would like to send up the chain. If you were interested in joining us and co-sponsoring, we would adjust the verbiage to include the Sustainability Commission and any other interested parties that are relevant to the question. And we would send it up to both our staff liaisons in the hopes that the support of both commissions would make an even stronger case to the city. Although I see the city is here, which is great.
Am I the whole city then?
And that's my 2-minute elevator pitch, if you will.
Great, thank you. Anyone have questions? John?
Earlier on, you were talking about a number of municipalities have already updated their lighting. What learning can you share with us from those experiences? Good, bad?
Okay, so for example, really depending upon the year in which we've gone and talked with him, the flashpoint is like, do they go down to the 2,700 or to the 3,000? Because it's just really within the last 2 or 3 years that you can get mass produced the 2,700, even though towns like Flagstaff has had them since 2000. They're roughly, the price has gone down now. So that's an example of the city of Kirkwood. So in 2025, they only regulated for commercial, and they did not choose at this point in time to regulate streetlights. And I think it's because, I don't know, I think that Kirkwood might have their own
Their own
electric company, so they may think that that's, gonna be a burden on them, and they're a smaller community. I don't know if they already have bought lights. Clayton is the example of having the moratorium, and I think it's 2026. And so they are, and that's why in one ways I'm not in favor of moratoriums, because they're incurring a rather large amount of money in one time shot to change all their lights down to their, to they're within the code. I think it's better myself to just phase it in, keep it at status quo. At least it's not getting any worse.
I can throw in one thing
Yeah.
on Clayton. I spoke to a Clayton Alden person about a week and a half ago, and she said the moratorium had made it quite expensive. That the city was still happy with their decision, but that it had made the price tag up front steep. So the grandfathering may be more approachable.
And Clayton's got a huge, larger downtown.
Yeah.
With a lot of lights, and I don't know if anybody's been in Clayton at night. But whoever installed their lights, they have 16 lights at several of their corners, which is obnoxious. So instead of 4 lights, they got 16 that they're changing. Yeah.
One thing I was going to mention about, enforcement or how you move this, how you get people to change this. And one thing I think would help your presentation quite a bit is I would love to see some data on the energy savings.
Oh, it's significant.
And so my wife has a favorite saying, money is the answer. What was the question? So that's always a motivator,
Right.
to get people to
Yeah.
think.
I didn't cover that, but that was covered.
Some data
Oh,
included
huge.
on that would really help.
Yeah, I didn't cover it because Linda Green covered that energy savings back then. And that kind of is something that does go into it. I agree with you. It does save an enormous amount of money. I mean, that's why everybody changes their incandescent light bulbs in their house to LEDs. So for example, like at my house, I had like some of those little landscape lights that were probably like 15 watts and there were 4 of them. I switched them all over to LED lights that are 2 watts. So I have all of my lights for less than 1. So it's easy to do. I mean, and I'm saving energy because the wattage is energy. So I agree with you.
A question about cities like Clayton and Ellisville, others that have done this earlier. How has this been communicated to residents, as far as getting the word out? Because, I know of homes where there's just these bright floodlights shining right out into the street. And
Right.
what kind of public education component is there?
Okay, so the way we've drafted the ordinance, it does go to more education for our residents, but it really isn't focused so much on residential lighting. It's more focused on commercial and streetlights. And if you look at Webster at night, it's really the commercial and the streetlights and the rec center and our parks that have more of the lighting that I would say is more detrimental as opposed to like the individual. I mean, I live in Webster Park and I think it's incredibly dark in there, which I like. I'm not going to complain about that, but I think it's pretty dark.
Yeah, do you, relating to his point, so is there data on safety levels at the crime statistics at the different Kelvin levels?
Okay, that's a good question. So and it's really 2 parts to that. There is data on 3,000 Kelvin by federal highway. But when those studies were done, the 2,700 lights weren't there. And I'm going to tell you that I think that the interstate highways that those are regulated are much different than the street lighting that we have because we don't, hopefully, or we're not driving 70 miles per hour on our streets. So the lighting level is okay, but I can tell you that the city of Phoenix has been watching it for 7 years now. And both from safety and accidents and crime, they've not noticed a difference when they lowered their lights. And there's 2 studies as part of Dark Sky International. There's 2 studies, one from England and one from Australia that has shown the exact same thing. Now, okay, so when I was a little kid, the street lights were sodium vapor lights. Sodium vapor lights, believe it or not, are 2,200 Kelvin. So they're less than this. So when people tell me that we got to have lights like this, I'm going to say, well, were there more accidents when you were a kid or more accidents now? I think the fact that if we have more accidents is probably because we're playing with our phones while we're driving. And there's a lot of other compounding little factors that go with that. So there are some, but it's hard to answer that question. It's hard because there's so many other little factors that go into safety and accidents. But yeah, there are at least some support. And I can tell you if you, let's see if I have it. If you go to,
Oh, here you go.
oh yeah. Here, if you go on here, Protect the Night, there's a whole lot of resources on there, and one of them are references to the safety part that'll address that. But you're right, in Kirkwood, there was a local group that was wanting it to be 3,000 as the cutoff instead of the 2,700. But Kirkwood opted for 2,700.
Really notice the difference between the two.
Can you tell me, can you notice?
Oh, is that the difference right
Yeah,
there?
there's the
Oh,
difference.
okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, that's why I bought these. You can really tell. I think you can tell. Now, what I always tell people is, okay, if you don't like this and it's not bright enough, many of the LEDs, you can make them brighter. Now, you still are at the 2,700, but the lumens has increased. So instead of this being like roughly a 60 watt bulb, now it's probably 75. So you can.
Using more energy when you turn it off like that?
Yeah, so it does cost more, but I think you're gonna save more than the sodium vapor or incandescent light bulb.
How about as a neighbor, you're trying to be a good neighbor, et cetera. How do you measure light?
How do you
At the
measure light?
border of your property, et cetera? What's
There's
a
a-
good way to measure that?
Well, it's, there are actual instruments, they cost like about $150 where you can go at the property line and measure it. It's measured in foot candles and you can get that. We have, Dark Sky has a couple of those things. We're doing a pilot project with Wowen School out in Oakville. And we're teaching these little fifth graders how to measure light, and that's one of the things that we have. And they too know that this is a lot better. But yeah, no, you can actually go to the property line and measure it. You can see sometimes too where you know there's light trespass when you're standing on the light and you get a shadow cast.
This has been super helpful, and I know that we're running out of time for the next group. Before I ask to adjourn, would this be something that we could put a subcommittee together that could dive into this and dive into what Green Space has done, perhaps reach out to Green Space with any questions?
There is some reason to hurry.
Right.
There are some developments coming in Webster. So we're hoping to send it up for this month, if we can, or next month.
Okay.
Not trying to rush you, but just an encouragement.
Sure.
So if I might make a procedural suggestion, you all can go ahead and send it forward while it's gonna be a little while before you get on the council agenda, which would give you some time
Right.
to do your due diligence, and you can then just add your name at that time if you
Right.
choose to.
Yeah.
That way you don't slow the process down, but you may get the benefit of
Right, I
all
think
the
we've
commissions
done
weighing
that
in.
in the past on certain
Yeah.
things. Because I think if we had a subcommittee look at this and delve into it, ask questions and communicate with you guys, maybe at the next meeting to bring something back for this commission to act on. So Karen, you wanna be part of that? Anyone else who's?
As a neighbor.
Yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Just asking, I guess, the commission members. Does everyone feel like we should take a longer time to think about it and do the subcommittee and ask questions? Does anyone feel like they have a strong feeling about it right now?
Submitting
Or
it
is it
first.
is it a procedural thing where we need to make sure we take time to?
I mean, I don't think it would hurt to take a month
Okay,
and, I'd like to read through. And just, like the mayor said, it doesn't hurt they can get the ball rolling and we can just add our name in later if that's what we choose to do as a commission.
So just so you all know, I mean, my anticipation would be you submit it, the city manager is gonna take a look at it, give especially Sanan and Elliot some time to take a look at it so that they're fully versed in it before it comes to council. So you're not gonna lose on an opportunity. And we're about to start budget season, which will consume our meetings for at least 6 weeks or so.
Okay.
May I make another comment? We're working through the comp plan. And I haven't seen the latest draft, just only been here for a few weeks. But I would look into that too, because comp plan drives a certain amount of zone, but it drives all zoning change in the overall view, but it can also help drive specifics.
Yeah, so just to make that a little longer, one of the things we as council expect is recommendations for a whole series of zoning changes that will be considered over the next year.
So I'll leave it at this. Anyone who's interested, reach out to Karen and I, and then hopefully we can take this up at the next meeting. And with that, our next meeting is John. We got it.
I neglected to ask for people who know whether they're gonna be able to be there for the EV event. Could I take this opportunity to do that?
Sure.
And this would be, again, it's Saturday, it's 10 a.m. to noon. Uh, and so real world, if you got there like 15 minutes before it started, that'd be great. But anybody able to be a part of it? I see Mary Barger, I see Jeff, I see Karen, I see Tim. So they said
Yeah.
they didn't make it up. Okay, correct. Okay, and if the spirit moves you and you think, oh man, I should have put up my hand, you can still come. So, but having,
All right,
but we're set, so
all
that.
right. Next meeting is April 21st. Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Favor. Thank you, everybody.